Welcome back to KSOF. I am DJ CJ in the house, and tonight we got a wonderful guest, Eric. Eric, introduce yourself to us.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. I think I gave it a shot.
It was beautiful. That's what it was.
Gave it a
Radio,
shot.
baby.
Yeah.
I'm Eric. Good to be here.
And we have our traditional host as well.
Yeah. This is Craig coming to you with The Sound.
And don't change that dial because Radio Rob is here as well.
Radio Rob. All right.
So I think tonight we have a topic that your three traditional hosts don't know much about, but damn it, I'm sure we have some opinions.
Yeah. I'll feel strongly in just a couple seconds. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna feel strongly about.
So
Whatever Eric says,
Yeah.
Craig feels the opposite.
exactly, that's where we're going with. So as far as I'm aware, Eric's position here is that any music released out past 2000 is trash.
That is
Garbage.
absolutely not my
Those
position.
words literally passed your mouth to my
They
ears.
literally did not.
But what's your position? What are we talking about?
Well, I just think that since the early 2000s, with the advent of Pro Tools, which is now Avid, and digital recording as a whole, that absolutely changed music for sure.
Okay.
Good or bad,
Yeah.
it's up in the air. And then further, with the advent of the internet and the YouTubes, there is just such a vast sea of music. From some of it's awesome, some of it shouldn't be published anywhere. But in amongst there now, you have this huge sea of music that you need to wade through, or you don't need to, but you can.
Right.
And that has absolutely changed the face of recording and music and everything else.
Okay.
Again, good or bad, I'm not here to say whether it's good. I have my own opinions.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
Right. But I never said, Caleb, that it was anything after 2000 is shit. And I never said that.
I did tell him I was going to introduce him as Man Yells at Sky.
Yeah. Back in my day, music used to mean something.
Yeah. More appropriately, man yells at SoundCloud.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Those things like SoundCloud, as great as they are for burgeoning new artists to get their music out there, and a lot of people have done that and done well with it. But at the same time, there's schmucks out there who shouldn't be.
Well, I mean, how different is that than 30 years ago? All those same schmucks would have been just recording demo tapes and sending them out to all the radio stations around.
Right, to people who have ears to know how to listen for what's good, listen for that talent and things like that, right?
I mean,
So now it's going to just everybody.
is it though?
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Because you can go to any SoundCloud and 90% of them are going to have fewer than 100 listens.
And this is true. But
You even said it kind of in your opener, Eric, is this idea is like, are people looking for it? Because if people aren't looking for it, they're never going to find that
Right.
content.
no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I certainly don't really go looking for it.
I have gone dumpster diving on occasion.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be fun. You can be like, look at this guy. This is terrible. It's one of those things. But I just I feel like prior to all of that, there was a lot of hard work that went into music production, that went into becoming I'm air quoting here, star. It wasn't just as easy as shooting a home video with your iPhone and then editing it together and putting it on and making it look all flashy when you have no talent and you shouldn't be. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, if I may, I think we can split what you're saying into two separate parts, because that's what I feel like I'm hearing is, one, it's way easier to make content.
Yes.
That it's way easier to make bad content sound good.
Yeah, yes.
And then there's also way more avenues to
That's exactly right.
spread content.
Yep.
And in my mind, those are two separate
They
things.
kind of are.
And
You're right.
To that point, you're listening to Strikes Our Fancy. You can find us wherever you
But this is a really good example of how easy it is to produce content that sounds professionally done. And
But is actually trash.
no, I didn't say that. But and then there's so many avenues out there that you can publish this out to potentially billions of people.
Right.
Well, you could publish it out, but not to people.
Who are you publishing it to?
We're publishing on Anchor.
Yeah.
Well,
which goes
my
to
point
Spotify.
being, it's available to.
Right, it's available,
Yeah.
but it's not going to anybody. It still has to be found.
No.
And I
You're
would
right.
argue that even a person who isn't maybe as technically proficient, and we'll go back to music here, but they love their craft and they just keep putting out music over and over again.
Mhm.
Maybe their recording is terrible. Maybe their guitar work isn't so great, but the lyric writing is good, and they get found, they get picked up.
Mhm.
Is that really a bad thing?
No, not necessarily. And that's what I'm saying. It's not all bad.
Mhm.
Don't
Right.
try to misconstrue what I'm saying.
No,
like Caleb
no.
had.
We need you to take a stance so we can tell you
Has
how
to be
wrong
a
you are.
hard line. There's no room for a gray area.
Yeah,
here.
it is all black and white here.
It's
None
a
of that
lot.
wishy-washy bullshit.
You're right. It's 1,000 times easier. And I pulled that number out of my ass. That's not really. But for a guy like me who has written songs and can perform music to maybe get discovered by some big record producer somewhere, it's so easy to do that. But at the same time, that can also mean that there's people out there that are getting discovered, that are getting put on the radio and everything else that they put no work into it. Or they have maybe all they have is that they wrote that one song that was really good, but they really aren't talented in any other way.
I mean, how different is that though than the radio industry's always been? I mean, there have been numerous one-hit wonders who they didn't even write their song; they're just coasting on their famous parents' names.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. But there was somebody that was famous in that scheme or that idea. I just think, I don't know. It used to be, if you wanted to get anywhere in the music biz, you had to first you had to
somebody
had to have a band or whatever. But you had to tour. You had to play live shows over and over and over and over and over and over again. You had to build your audience through your show, through your live performances. And somewhere in there, you would find time to take a little tape deck and a little cheapo, cheaper than what we're recording through right now type thing to record a demo tape that sounded like feet. And then, you would hand that out or sell it at your show, hoping that, Rick Rubin happened to be in one of the bars you
in
played
that
at.
basement.
Right. And then from that, you had to hope that you would score that record deal. And then you get that record contract, and then you have to actually produce. And that's where, things start to fall apart for a lot of bands because, holy crap, 5 record deal. We only have 6 songs, that thing. But the point is, you had to cut your teeth. You had to pay your dues and work hard at it. By the time you got that record deal, generally, you knew you were already a good artist, talent-wise, playing-wise, and everything else.
But does that necessarily mean that they're good artists, that they've paid their dues, so to say, that they've earned it? Did they actually earn it? I mean, obviously, they got somewhere.
Who?
Like this metaphorical band that we're talking about, who went to
That's what
all these shows.
Yeah, that's the whole paying their due. They had to work at it a lot harder than a person does today.
So you're saying without the work,
But I'm not sure that that's necessarily true, because you're not going to release one song and unless you're extraordinarily lucky and you hit the lotto and just some record executive hears it and loves your song.
Like Justin Bieber.
Did he do just one song?
A record producer heard his video on YouTube. It was like, that kid is going places.
But I mean,
now, granted, he's got a voice. And
I don't know the history of Justin Bieber. I'm not a fan of his, like you seem to be.
No, okay, gloves are coming off.
No, but like I have definitely heard it, and I can't think of her name, but it was the same deal where, but she had been releasing just song after song, like a song every month, and just constantly working at it for years until finally she got to a point where she had 1,000 followers on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the right person.
So,
heard it.
and like I said, maybe I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. It's just, it's different. Now, what you're talking about, maybe that's the new way. Maybe that's the new, instead of going out and touring and playing dingy pubs, 6 times a week.
Right.
Maybe it's that. Maybe it's you just keep pumping it out until you get your followers up. Maybe that's the new thing. Whether that's good or bad, again, I'm not saying it cheapens it at all. It's just, it's different.
And I think there's an element to all this that we haven't even addressed yet that I think throughout the entire music industry, from the beginning to now, it's not just about the talent. It is about who you know. It is about your demographic. It is about your look.
Image.
It is about your images. Are you marketable? Can we sell your records? Can we sell your image?
Right.
That hasn't changed. It's just, there's more content out there for producers to pan through if they want to.
Sure.
And then there still is kind of the decentralized followings where people naturally find other artists that they like and start to follow, and that snowballs on its own. So I almost view that as a good thing. I'm gonna take the idealized version of it that now we don't have the gatekeepers anymore.
Right.
We don't have to. We still do. We don't have to.
Right.
But so I guess I would say it comes at a cost, i.e. more volume of content. But I would say it's almost a good thing.
Sure.
Stuff that's bad, people
And I think
still aren't going to listen to.
I think it's good in some ways in that a lot of people have learned, how to be a producer, how to be an engineer, how to be a mixer.
Yeah.
Those are niche jobs. If you didn't have a producer, an engineer, a mixer, like you couldn't record worth a, what. I could say shit.
Yeah,
right?
you can say it.
You can re-record that line if you want to. You can
Shit,
say-
balls,
that's fine.
fuck, cunt. Like, you say whatever the fuck you want here, man.
But nowadays, like you are, Craig, you are the producer, you are the mixer, you're the engineer on this podcast. Because you're wearing all those hats, because you're the guy running the board, you're the guy set up the microphones.
And because the tech is cheaper. Like, I think that's a big
absolutely.
part of it as well.
It's way
like
more available. Yeah,
we don't need to go. I don't need to go to a studio to do this. Like,
exactly. And so in some respects, it's easier to follow your interests if that's what you're into than it was 30 years ago. It's hard to think of 30 years.
Right.
And we're old.
Yeah.
I was in high school. But that's kind of my thing. It's just not so much what's changed for me that I don't like as much is not so much the availability part of it.
Okay.
It's more what were the two things that we used?
There was talent, and then there was like accessibility. That's kind of how I viewed what you were saying.
So the talent part of it. Because with the advent of things like Pro Tools and any other digital audio workspace, the digital recording, instead of going from the 2-inch tape, now you could just go straight to your computer. And if you flub something, like you said, we can go back, just re-record it, and we'll cut it out, and boom, there it is.
Wait.
Yo, yeah, no. What?
Nobody needs to know how this is made.
Oh, shoot.
This goes out to our audience untouched,
Raw.
Eric. I don't know what you're talking about.
Peek behind the curtain. But, with things like auto-tune and Beat Detective and
but
and
you
that kind of
can't
stuff.
auto-tune your way out of bad singing. A lot of
Yes, you
people
can.
think you can because you can auto-tune your way out of not perfect singing. But you have to have
Yes and no.
a little bit. You have to be close or it's going to sound terrible.
Auto-tune, when it was first released, when it first was a thing, wasn't used as like an instrument the way it is now. It was used for like, you were a little pitchy on that last one.
Yeah.
On the last chorus. So rather than have you record it again and again and again until you finally hit that, they go in and find that one note and
tweak it.
doop,
Yep.
Just a
and
little.
that's the one that gets tweaked. So yes, in some respects, I see what you're saying. Like you still, the rest of it had to be good. Like you can't just go in there and be like, and sing like Caleb might sing, and then it make him sound like awesome.
Caleb has a lovely voice.
I pick on Caleb a lot.
I really hope you auto-tune this podcast.
Oh my
I
God.
gotta figure out how that
No,
works.
but you're right. You can't auto tune.
And there is the aspect of autotune being used as an instrument, but I think that is actually well, it's not my style, but I think it's actually a good thing because it is a new instrument.
It is. They're using the technology in a way that it wasn't designed to be used, and
Right.
it's innovative. It's a
Yeah.
cool, or it was innovative.
Yeah.
Anymore, it's like standard, but
It's, yeah, pretty gimmicky.
yeah,
I almost think of it as like heavily leveraging autotune works if you're in a particular genre of music. Like if you're
Absolutely.
doing electronic music, it's like, yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds that fits the tone, that fits the
Exactly.
idea of the end
no,
product.
you're absolutely right.
But like, yeah, if you're trying to do like a cappella and you autotune the whole thing, it's like that's gonna be one, it's either gonna sound awful, or two, yeah, it's very
Right.
disingenuous.
Mhm.
Like you're lying to your audience.
The other thing, though, that would be the thing that I mentioned was it's called Beat Detective, and what that is in Pro Tools, you can go in and everything is the track is on a grid,
Mhm.
so you can snap every beat to the beat, and you lose the human element, you lose the soul, you lose that certain.
Je ne sais quoi.
What does that mean?
I don't know what. The beat, the backbeat, that feel, you lose that human feel to it. Because when something gets quantized like that, everything is 1, 2, it's right on the beat.
Mhm.
And you miss those little ghost notes and you miss the little
To err is human.
right.
Like,
But-
if something is perfect, it's gonna sound unnatural.
It can.
Okay, or, yeah.
Sometimes you can't even tell that they've done it. Most modern rock does it. Just gonna throw it out there. But you can't tell. It's just that it's done well enough to where you can't tell unless you're actually sitting there with a metronome and you're counting it out.
Yeah.
And yep, they started at 80 beats per minute and they ended at 80 beats per minute. Versus,
Well, what's an example of that? Like, what's where a human flaw has made something like that better, as opposed to the perfection of the program?
everybody here's familiar with Pink Floyd.
Who are they?
I will punch you in the mouth.
That's that Sellers movie, isn't it? Peter Sellers. It's Pink Panther. Sorry, nobody got the reference. So it's fine.
So
Anyways.
on Dark Side of the Moon, the whole thing, but Money in particular. Everybody knows the song "Money" by Pink Floyd. Probably not Caleb.
I don't.
Really?
I don't.
I'd
it's-
sing a section of it, but we get content strike.
Right.
so.
Yeah. David Gilmour come knocking on your door. Actually, probably Roger Waters would come knocking on your door. But no, it starts off, and I don't remember what the BPM is, but it starts at a pace and it speeds up because they're playing it together,
Mhm.
and it was recorded that way. Now, listening to it when you hear it on the radio, you're not like that's sped up. You can't. It's imperceptible. Like it doesn't change the song so much, but it goes, and it's not a huge dramatic change. But if you listen to that, you know how it opens with like the cash register sounds and the change hitting the thing, right?
There it is, right there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. We're done.
That sound effect at the beginning was actually their click track. That was their counting off. 1, 2,
Interesting.
3. And if you listen as it's going, later on that fades back in and it's off
Huh.
because they sped up. The band sped up, but the
Okay.
click track can't speed up.
Right.
And that was there's an example for you.
So-
AC/DC's Back in Black. They speed up, slow down, speed up all over the place.
I
in
don't
that
think it's
song.
a thing of it makes it better. It's not a problem, and it's more human.
Okay.
Right, and that's just it. Yeah, it's not so, like I said, it's not such a huge thing where you're like, wow, boy, they went from like 60 beats per minute to 120 beats per minute.
because
No.
nobody notices that. As far as like,
It's small enough to where as you're listening, no, it sounds good, and that's you're not even paying attention to how many beats there are.
so like, is there a situation in which an actual flaw has happened in a song that made it better, as opposed to like these imperceptible speeding up changes of the rhythm?
Well, I mean, I think the Pink Floyd example is great. Like to listen to it at the beginning, everything's on beat with that. What do you call it? The
click track.
The click track.
The click track.
Yep.
But at the end, you get almost a stagger effect. Like the song will sound a little different because they're off from the click track.
But is it noticeable to the general population?
No, not unless you hear that click track go
Yeah,
again,
okay.
which you do in Money because somebody at the engineering board accidentally hit that pot up and and then they faded it out.
Oh, okay, so that was an accidental
Mhm.
thing. Okay, I must have missed that. I just stopped
I don't
listening
think
to
I
you.
mentioned that, but
I still stopped listening to you.
But then, you know,
there was one that I played for you the other day. This isn't so much the BPM stuff, but this goes back to analog recording on tape stuff. Led Zeppelin, the opening track in Zeppelin 2, Whole Lot of Love. You know, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Towards the end, there's a part where it's kind of a breakdown and all you hear is Robert Plant singing, but you can hear like there's like this pre-echo of him singing the line before he sings the line. Completely was not planned. It was because the way they recorded things back then, it was bleed over from prior tracks. But it sounds like on purpose. Like, you know what I mean? Like if
It was a happy accident.
right. Because who's going to sit there and be like, you know what? If we did this and, you know, had this little echoey thing right before it, I mean, maybe they thought of that. I don't know. But
Which is something a producer would have to deliberately think of
Right.
nowadays, as opposed to just
Exactly.
happening.
well, you wouldn't necessarily, if you recorded multiple tracks, which you almost certainly would, like if you, multiple takes. In Pro Tools, you could easily say, okay, well, we're going to pop this track in, bring the volume down, and then just shove it left just half a second.
absolutely.
So-
You can absolutely recreate that stuff using the digital stuff. Yes, absolutely.
Very easily. Yeah.
But this was far.
Yeah, but that would never
this
happen.
This was a long time before Pro
Or
Tools.
it would never happen. A person wouldn't just think of that. They might think of it now saying, yeah, I want to get that sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But you know, the entire history of the recording industry has been kind of built around trying to cover up mistakes of artists. Because you can get your whole band into the studio and keep playing and trying again and again and again to get that perfect take, but you're never going to get it. And from the earliest days, whatever technology was available was used to cover up those mistakes.
Absolutely.
Even mixing boards invented because I want to be able to hear the singer over the instruments, over the drums.
Right.
So, I mean,
Isn't this the natural evolution? Isn't
It
this
is.
the goal?
No, it
where
is.
we're at
And
today?
there's Pro Tools. You can do a ton of stuff with things like Pro Tools, and I keep referring to Pro Tools. This is what I have.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean that there's not a billion other ones out there.
What, are you
Whatever.
getting paid? Are you a shill?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's going on
Yeah,
right now?
Avid, give me money. No, Pro Tools took all of the analog stuff and digitized it, basically. Like the plugins you can get, I can make it sound like we're recording in Abbey Road Studios if I want to. I've got all the echo plates. I've got the reverb chambers. I got the everything.
Sure.
In plug-in version. So if we wanted to make it sound like a Beatles record, we could.
Sure.
Because I've got the JP37 reel-to-reel plug-in.
right.
You know, I've got all of the compressors and everything else. But they're all plugins. Because all of that stuff, all of the racks of equipment that they had is now digitized. Like you said, because it's the natural evolution.
Yeah.
So you can still make it sound like, you know, an old 1960s recording where it's hissy and roomy and boomy and all that other ambient stuff that was happening in those studios. And you can still have it that way, that warmth that you can get from the analog and everything else.
So I want to push on you a little bit, and I might be completely off base. But what I feel like some of the subtext of what you've been saying is I don't know how much music you've created, how much you put out there, but like, I feel like some of what you're saying is it cheapens the industry, and like it's almost not fair how easy it is for some people these
Caleb
days.
and I kind of talked about this the other day. It's one of those. So in the end, music is what? It's entertainment, right? So you look at other forms of entertainment, actors, right? I don't look at Brad Pitt and think, oh, he's really a Nazi killer from Inglourious Basterds.
Right.
Or I'm
Separating the
drawing a blank
art
on
from the artist.
Right. I know that he's acting. He's really not that person, or he or she is really not that person. They're playing a role. They're acting.
Sure.
And so when it comes to the recording industry in music, you know, there are people out there. Did anybody remember Milli Vanilli? Is anybody old enough to remember
You guys
that?
don't remember?
Not I.
Huge scandal back in the, what was that, like the 90s?
Yeah, it was
Early
like
90s, late
92,
80s.
93 that it was.
It was a duo. These two good-looking guys with dreadlocks, and they were doing their dance and singing their songs. They had a couple of hits. So the secret came out that they had actually, the guys that they were putting out there as the artists were lip-syncing the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
They had nothing to do with the writing, the recording, nothing. It was just two guys that looked really good, and that's Milli Vanilli. And that was a huge scandal. It was all over the place. So I guess the question would be, where do you draw the line? Why was it such a big deal for those two to be acting as these singers when they're really not those singers, but it's okay for Kevin Spacey to be an actor and play Kaiser Soze when he's really not? Oop, did I just spoil a movie?
We just spoiled a 20, 30-year-old movie. It's the deception, though. Like, people are paying to see whoever these people are. Milli Vanilli.
Yeah.
Cannot believe you guys don't know who Milli Vanilli is.
Craig,
That's
how does
okay.
it feel to be young? Young and youthful?
Well,
I do know the story, but I didn't know the name.
Let me. You guys know who Ashley Simpson is?
Yeah, this
That's
is
a little more
recent.
That's a little more recent.
No.
It was like
Was
2015.
was it Jessica Simpson's that her
I know Jessica Simpson.
her little sister
Okay.
was making her music, right? And I think it was Saturday Night Live, wasn't it? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think it was Saturday Night Live, which is ridiculous to me because that's always obviously been like a pre-recorded song.
For some of them, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, she started basically. She was
singing
the wrong song.
She was singing the song that they were supposed to play, but the audio engineer played the wrong song.
Completely different track.
So in other words, she was lip syncing.
Mhm.
It happened to Mariah Carey too.
Did it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's.
It was like
I do
a
remember.
Christmas, like she was doing like a Christmas thing at like Times Square. So it was a huge event, and I don't know if they started the song late or they started the wrong song. I don't remember what exactly.
And it
happened.
threw everybody off.
Right. What she was hearing in her monitor was not what the crowd was hearing.
Right.
And it's not unusual for that to happen. That like for especially like you're saying for TV shows and things like that. They'll usually do an edited version of whatever they were playing.
Sure. But when the root core of your band is built on that, that feels like a deliberate deception.
It cheapens it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a stretch, but a long way around to saying, like, with all of the technology that exists today, I could sit in my man cave and record and make it sound good when in fact I have no talent.
So you feel deceived by some of these people.
I not just me.
I just really feel like you can't, because if you have no musical talent whatsoever, you can't play an instrument, you can't sing, but you have the ability to sing flatly into a microphone and then pop a few keys on your keyboard and make an original song. I mean, how is that really any different than electronic music? I mean, like let's take Daft Punk as an example. Regardless of how good of musicians they are, you never hear any actual instruments on almost any of their songs, and all of their vocals are heavily edited because that's the sound they were going for. And that is, they make an interesting sound like that.
It's different. That's because that's what they're going for.
Well, right.
So
But if what you're going for is a pop song
Yeah.
and you make a pop song. I mean, is that
But if you you really can't sing.
I think to put what you just said in a nutshell, because I was thinking along the same lines, is the artistry isn't necessarily in the output or in yourself. The artistry is in the editing. Like you still had to put in effort and talent and make choices to find something that people were going to like.
right? Because I will tell you, I could not do that. Like I can't sing and I can't play any instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for a fact there's absolutely no way I could lay down a track and figure out with every possible professional tool out there.
We get it, Rob. You're a talentless hack.
It's true. But I would not be able to make that sound good.
Right.
So there is a talent in that.
But it's not musical talent.
but I guess if you're leveraging tools that auto-generate a beat potentially, but like you still need to be able to have an ear for something. You need to be able to make it and then listen to it and be like, yeah, I think this is good, or no, this isn't good.
But to go out and then sell it as, look at how good I sound.
So if they had like put a disclaimer on that CD saying, "Look at how good I sound," I edited
that's
myself.
essentially what a CD is.
But if they were just like, I deliberately edited it.
I couldn't do this live.
Exactly. I
Right.
couldn't do this live. I did this myself, but I don't sound this good. I edited it together to make it sound like this. Would that be less?
I mean, no,
would you still consider it?
Would it be just as distasteful?
no, because they're being honest about it. I
But
guess.
where do we draw the line though? Because every CD is an impossibly good sound.
Sure, not every.
I mean, unless it's a live performance, I would say so. Like, unless it is explicitly.
And I'll go back to
live recording.
pre 2000s
Mhm.
rock.
Yeah.
Okay, bands like Steely Dan, bands like Van Halen. Who played for Van Halen again, Caleb?
I forget his name.
Sidebar here, real fast.
Please, this is going to get edited out.
This absolutely can't, because I was about ready to really punch you in the mouth.
Oh my god.
When Eddie Van Halen passed away,
R.I.P.
I went up and I was speaking with Caleb, and I showed him a video of Eddie playing live, and it's phenomenal. And he asked me, in all seriousness, there was no him just messing with me. What band did he play for again?
Pink Floyd.
I literally walked out of the room. I was so angry.
I didn't see him for 2 weeks.
But no, you look back at those bands. They played that live together and put it on tape. And was there editing done? Yes, there was. There always is. But then you go and see them live, and it sounds just like what you heard on the record. Do you get what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Versus nowadays, we'll take Foo Fighters, for example. Look at Dave Grohl. When he recorded their first record, it was all him. He did every instrument.
Right.
He played all of that. Put it together, glued it up, and there it is. Foo Fighters.
I know another band that was exactly that same way. Tiny little band, you might have heard of it, Boston.
Yeah.
Oh.
First record was, I'm spacing on his name, but
Tom Schultz.
I think that, yeah.
His name?
Played everything in his basement.
He's also an MIT engineer. And
Right, yeah. Yeah, played everything in his basement, and then they flew the singer out to a recording studio to record their first album. Because basically the band had broken up. They'd all given up.
There's a lot of it. And there's a lot of single solo artists. Trent Reznor is another good one. Nine Inch Nails. We're talking about electronic music here. Trent Reznor is Nine Inch Nails. Used to be. Now it's him and Atticus Ross. But, for the early stuff, Downward Spiral, Pretty Hate Machine, Fragile, all those huge records.
If I may take a bit of a turn, what do you think of someone like Ed Sheeran, who I'm not particularly familiar with, but live he does all of it by himself using the tech.
Yeah.
So it will be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's still him mixing it in the moment.
Yeah.
So like, where
It's possible. I'm not saying it's not impossible, but there's a lot of stuff that happens on a record that you can't reproduce while you're playing live.
Okay.
Unless you've got, I suppose it all depends. Like Ed Sheeran, he's an excellent artist. I actually like Ed Sheeran.
No.
I think his voice is fantastic, and he was really good in Game of Thrones, by the way. That one part that he had
Weird
anyway.
little plug. Yeah.
But for somebody like him, it's not hard to have a beat put in behind you. If it's just a guy with a guitar, that's.
But to
something-
your earlier point, though, that beat will be perfect because there isn't a human behind it.
But that's the way it's supposed to be for that type of music, though.
Okay.
You're very contradictory.
And it is. It can be contradictory. But then you listen to stuff like Steely Dan, and you hear Bernard Purdy drummed for them a lot. He's got a really good shuffle that he can do on a drum set, but it's got that feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't reproduce that electronically. I'm sure you probably could if you sat there long enough, but he sits down at the drum kit and plays it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the feel that I'm talking about.
Okay.
It can be reproduced to a degree, but having the drums and the bass just hit that pocket just right and get that groove going, there's something to that.
I almost, to tie in a couple different thoughts, Rob, you asked, where do you draw the line? And then we talked a little bit about Van Halen, about how, Eric, for you were very passionate about that. And Caleb, you were like, I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eddie who?
Is that how you draw? Everyone's going to draw their own personal line as to what's cheap and what's art,
right?
It's how passionate you are about any given thing.
Sure.
And they're just.
And it goes back to what I said at the top of the show. At the end of the day, if you're making something and people like it and buy it, good. Congratulations, you made it. That's awesome.
You bamboozled the public.
Yeah, more power to you.
Yeah.
If somebody can make something and people enjoy it, I mean, that's the point. So like I said, I'm not falling squarely in one camp or the other. I'm just saying it has changed. It's different.
Yeah, it definitely is.
There's some things that I disagree with. There's some things that I like. There's some things that I don't like.
The damn kids these days.
Damn kids and their music. But that human element, you sit down and listen to something like Pink Floyd's records, and you can hear the intricacies. You can hear there's little nuances that aren't going to be there if it's quantized and sterile and done to a beat machine. It's just that's just my 2 cents on that.
Just one guy talking.
This is one guy talking.
I really think all of this technology, again, my stance the whole time has been, you got to have talent somewhere along the line.
Sure. It's a variation of what your talent lies in, though. Like you were saying, if you're really good at mixing and editing, then awesome.
Yeah.
But maybe
I
you
do
should
think if that is where your talent lies, you're probably going to naturally fall into a musical style that emphasizes that.
Or you become a producer or an engineer or a mixer.
Right.
Because that's where your talent lies. You can take somebody who doesn't sound so good, has a little bit of talent, and make them sound better on the board.
Right. But yeah, so I think that's exactly the point I was going to make is this is all a net good because it gives somebody who has a little bit of talent, and granted, probably not enough to make it on their own, but it lets them produce the music they want to hear. And they don't have to be a professional all the time to get that sound they want.
And that's fair, yeah.
Hold on.
Don't lie to me like
just
that.
to confirm, Rob, you are a talentless hack.
Yeah, absolutely. I have.
It is on
I have
record.
no redeeming qualities.
I did just want to talk about availability for a moment, because I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I would be curious your guys' thoughts on about availability. Like, I like that there isn't a gatekeeper anymore. If I wanted to, I can make what I want to make. I can make the sound, Rob, that you said that I want to hear, and then I can put it out there, and hopefully other people will find it and hopefully enjoy it as well, or they can tell me I'm a talentless hack and this is trash. But I'm curious, do you guys think that is better or worse for the music industry?
Well, for the industry, it's probably bad.
Yeah.
But I don't care about the industry.
Okay.
For music in general, for the human experience, I think it is better.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. I think it's fantastic because there's stuff out there now that, like you said, the creativity, the ingenuity, they're making stuff that they want to hear, which means there's probably someone else out there that wants to hear it too. And I think it's a good thing.
All you have to have is a couple $100 worth of equipment.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So if Craig produces Caleb Sings Christmas, you guys will buy the album?
No,
No, okay.
I might.
without hesitation.
What I wanted to jump on a tangent on, though, is what do you guys think about, well, yes, all of this stuff is available. What about how difficult it is to find? Because, I mean, we're all fed from all the giant tech companies and all the record companies stuff that they want to sell and stuff that they have quantified and deemed this is going to be popular. I mean, what's the best way for an average listener to go about finding their music, from other people?
I think, because I get stuck in YouTube click holes all the time.
Yeah.
Their algorithms for, you watch this video, you might like this. Like, I think that's a pretty good way to discover new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Music has something very similar to where they'll suggest things.
You're just going to trust the math?
Based on, well, that's one way to do it because, and you look at it, like I said, you look at the amount that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much out there. It's like, I'm using the technology to my advantage on that. Or you can just blindly start clicking and typing in, genres into whatever.
So like for my Apple Music, typically I just pick a song that I've already have on my in my library. The other day I picked a song. I didn't know where I was clicking. I just clicked it, and then it started playing songs that weren't in my library. But it definitely was like me discovering new songs. It was just like another happy accident. So like definitely that is an avenue to go down. Apparently there's like a radio option where like I just click the song I want to listen to.
Yeah, and
it'll
it
take me
uses
down similar.
It
pathways.
uses those algorithms to find similar music, and you listen to this, you might like this.
I always think of that as like the Pandora style, because I think they were the first online kind of radio station to do that.
But that's to discover music that's out there that maybe that's not necessarily like independent, small one-room recording artist type of things. And for that,
if someone's getting license fees off of that music.
Absolutely, yeah. Their BMI, ASCAP, all those big guys are paying them. But for the little guys, the Robs that are making their weird electronic music in their basement, that sounds weird.
But I imagine Rob is more of a spoken word artist.
Chiptune, actually.
Slam poetry. But no, again, it goes back to what you were saying before. There is some work that needs to get put in by the person making it to get the followers to start hitting those algorithms to start getting out there.
And as for finding it, if you have a specific genre that you're looking for, there's a subreddit for you. There's a website.
Absolutely.
There's somewhere where you can find people are posting, hey, I made this. Let me know what you think. And you can generate a following that way.
Yeah. If it's not on Reddit, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, right?
Fact of life.
What I'm hearing and the general summary of it all, Eric, still stays the same, right? Everything after 2000 you hate. That's kind of what the stance you defended.
Anything that wasn't acoustic. If it's electronic in any way, it's bad. Like if it can be metal.
No, guys. It's
got to be analog.
Obviously saying is anything that's analog is good. Yeah. Anything digital is crapshoot.
That's not at all what I'm No, I just things have changed. There's been some big watersheds in terms of how music is made and how it becomes available that have forever changed the face of the entertainment biz.
And we hate change.
Yeah.
And we fear change.
I mean, what I'm hearing is if you were around in the 50s, like you would have hated the way Elvis moved his hips. Like this is unacceptable.
Get that off my TV. The devil's box.
Devil's box. I think both Rob, Craig, and I.
Both Rob, Craig, and I?
Both Rob, all three of us. Both of us. We obviously don't have that much like knowledge of music. I think our general opinion of music is like it's there.
I'd say you guys know more than you know.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. But like I feel like we all had something to generate with the discussion, and I appreciate that. I don't think we had any hardline opinions except for Rob. Rob, did you have any hardline opinions?
No. I mean, my hardline opinion is there's good in this change.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree that there's some crap too.
Yeah.
If you want to tell us what talentless hacks we are, send us an email at strikesourfancy@gmail.com. Visit our website, ourfancy.site, or we have Instagram and Twitter now, I think.
I got rid of Twitter.
Oh, okay.
As it's crumbling to
I
the
was gonna
ground, I
say,
didn't think it was
don't
worth
play
it.
it.
Yeah.
If you'd like to tell me how bad I'm doing, too bad because I'm not on social media. So
Well,
No, actually, I was going to ask, where can our listeners find you?
they can't.
Well, but I mean, you've made some tracks. Do you have like a SoundCloud or something that people can listen to?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't have any social media. I have no real online presence.
Yeah. That's probably for the best.
Yeah.
I've been removing mine steadily over the last few years.
Yeah.
I am going to plug, hopefully, Juggling Geese coming soon.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
So for
We'll see what
those,
happens.
Caleb and I we've got how many have we tried now?
I think we had like 1.4 episodes, meaning 4 first episodes that
Yeah.
we just keep doing a tangent and
Yeah.
it just turns into rambling.
We're still trying to nail down exactly what we want to do, and I think that's part of it. Because we
still-
try to be structured, and then the wheels fall off. And
Still
it
trying
just-
to nail each other.
Mhm.
Whoa!
Hey. But so, yeah, Juggling Geese, hopefully coming soon. We'll replug when it's available.
Sure.
See a link on our
definitely.
website and Instagram.
But as always, this is DJ CJ. Thank you for listening to Strikes Are Fancy.
This has been Craig, preferring the sound of silence.
I'm Rob, and I have no wacky DJ name.
Hey, this is Eric. Thanks for coming.
All right, hold on.
Wow.
Hold on.
Wow. Welcome to.
Hold on.